Thank you.
My name is Lepore. I want to thank you guys for being here and taking the time. When you said thank the elders for being here, and thank everyone for honoring the cause for the Native American community. My question more is about self-responsibility for every Indian, I believe. Through DNA testing, I was able to find out that I was 60% Native American. And through a study by the U.S. government on the Athabascan-speaking people, I was able to match up Y DNA markers to the San Carlos Apache. With that knowledge, I decided to conduct rediscovery of the Apache roots. And I decided to take a stand at work. I'm a police officer, and by American traditional culture, police officers have short hair. And I elected not to have short hair. I also elected to have my spiritual and religious aspects recognized that were not. So do you think it's important that whether we're federally recognized or state recognized, whatever that means to somebody, because it means nothing to me at this point,
Exactly.
because we're all one nation, in my mind. Do you think it's very, very important that the Indian take responsibility and stand up in places where it's scary to stand up? It's scary to stand up in corporate America and identify who you are culturally and spiritually without repercussions of being fired. Ken Spivey did a news story on me, and it's on their website, and you wouldn't believe about 40% of the population that viewed that news story had very racist and prejudiced marks towards the American Indian.
I would believe.
And it was a shock, because San Antonio, being the cultural collective arena that it is, just blew my mind. And there are those that I'm blessed that were 60% that were for the American Indian now to have their cultural identity in corporate America. So, again, my question is, do you think it's the responsibility of every Indian to stand up at places at work where it's not traditional to look like an Indian, to be an Indian?
Yes. Now you have the legal side. Do we have a right to do that?
I think a name, putting a name to what your question would be Charlene Teeters. One person who stood up against her entire institution because the institution had a racist mascot logo and actions that went with that. And it also held her ability to graduate from that institution. It held her ability to get good grades. It held her ability to socialize in that institution. She was one person that stood up and started a movement to have racist mascots and logos, specifically American Indian racist mascots and logos, removed from colleges and universities across the country. And she did so. She was very successful, and the University of Illinois did change its mascot logo and all of the actions that went along with it. It was a very trying time for her. It was very difficult, but as time went on, very short amount of time, she found supporters, people who she could trust to talk to do the painful thing that none of us can do sometimes in our place of work, to put our head down and cry and want to quit, but find people that would support her. So I think when you look for that one example, it gives you empowerment to move forward with your own issues.
I think that's a tough question. There are definitely examples throughout Indian country of individuals like you who have taken a stand. You know, I know, like within my own pueblo, I had a teacher whose father had been drafted into the military, and he had long hair and he wore it in a chongo. And the military wanted him to cut it, and he stood up and he said, no, this is traditionally, my hair is supposed to be like this, it's born like this, I'm not going to cut it. And he essentially won that battle. He was able to keep his hair the way it was, but it wasn't without, I don't think if he had not have said anything and had been strong about his traditional beliefs and where he was from, that, you know, it wouldn't have happened like that. So I definitely think that if you feel strongly that this is whatever they're asking you to do in corporate America goes against your cultural or spiritual beliefs, that yes, you do have a responsibility to yourself to take that stand and to make sure that your employer knows what those are. I can tell you from a legal standpoint, there is, just like there's a whole body of federal Indian law, in that body of law, there's a whole other body of law about who is Indian. And it's been a question considered by the United States Supreme Court. So not only my point about that is not only do Native people make their own classifications about who they would consider a member of their tribe, but the United States has also made classifications about who they consider to be an Indian.
Who do they recognize?
Right, exactly.
Okay,
So-
I want to go ahead and cut it, only because we've got like 5 more minutes and we have at least 4 more questions, maybe 5. So maybe just one person might respond, but I think what's important here is that we all hear the questions. I think that those are important parts, so. You have.
Well, I felt attracted to this conference because I am an activist for indigenous rights here in this area of Danawana, and have been so for over 15 years. And it is very hard to get any money to do this on your own if you're not a part of the academic staff in the college or somehow within a powerful nonprofit that can fund you. It's very, very hard. I do this as, I'm a common worker. I simply am an activist and have refused to stand down. There are so many issues that affect our identity. And here in San Antonio, in what is, that's a colonized name in itself, I heard what you said. My grandmother also wanted me to be able to speak Spanish and not Nahuatl, so that I wouldn't be the Indio that my grandfather was, and so that I could succeed in school. Well, she semi-succeeded and semi-failed because that anger against the white colonization of my land and my people just wouldn't leave my spirit. And so I'm still at it, and I'd like to know here, who would like to also do actions? I want to go to the Archdiocese and demand that they respect us as indigenous people. Right now, they're taking the 5 missions that enslaved us and took our identity and our land and putting them up as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO, which means tourism dollars for San Antonio. But it means less and lack of access to us as far as ceremonies or as far as being able to collect willow or any plants that are along the creeks, because they're making those improvements, which makes it more part of the church and more part of the National Park Service. So I would like to do an action at the Archdiocese, as I don't know more has done, and an action at National Park Service office to let them know we are indigenous people here. We are being, because we have no recognition, not even state, forget federal. We've never been recognized since 1836 when this became a republic of Texas. So we are here, and we go through much discrimination, everything you've described, amongst ourselves, saying you have to prove that you're an Indian to even be able to be at this mission, to even speak up for this mission. We have to prove our genealogy and being a lineal descendant, or otherwise you get shut down. And even if you do, if you don't currently live within the community of the missions, you're still shut down. So it's very hard for us here in San Antonio to organize. So anyone that is here that wishes to join me on any of these actions, I have a sign-up sheet. We do a march that I've been organizing now. This will be our 11th year, and every year we get fewer people. Instead of getting larger, we get smaller. I mean, it's okay to look for a job and go after that, and look after success and go after that. But to forget that this is your land, to forget that this struggle what we're involved in is your struggle, is wrong. Thank you very much. I don't have a question, other you've answered everything. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you, Juan.
Just a quick comment on that. You know, it's the same way our Mexican American Studies program is struggling so much, Indigenous Studies. We're 70% Chicano at Palo Alto College, and the great majority, we have Mexican American Studies courses, they don't take it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, but just an example like this march, which is important also.